Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new Gentleman Thief Schemer Diablo, the final character of the Schemer meta. And he's going to be a really good DPS character, and that's about it. So, space, physical, Schemer, Primal Demon, Fount of Wisdom, uses a sword. His ult is an AoE ult for damage. No support here, he is just power. His first skill is a personal buff, space plus damage and AoE damage. The space plus is kind of the same thing that is the Warrior's Mind Blanc Dark plus debuff. It's the debuff and buff version, so they're multiplicative. And the AoE buff is multiplicative as well, because we can get that same AoE buff from the Charm, or Octogram Lumi, or some other things. This skill will make Diablo do a lot of damage, just for 25 points, by itself. Like, Space Plus means that you could nuke against anybody in it, since he is a Space Plus character, as shown here. He's going to do 120% more damage. And then you've got the AoE buff, and he is an AoE nuke. So that's really going to puff his power up. But his Orb Steal, his second skill, has a little bit of stupid things attached to it. So, triple Orb Steal, except for light character orbs, and we will definitely show that in practice. So he'll steal dark, fire, water, wind, space, etc. Not light characters, though. And then he changes 2 space characters' alt orbs into greens, which on paper sounds fine, because you're doing a convert and you're doing a steal and a convert in the same turn. Like, what could go wrong with that? The problem is that if you steal with him, you get rid of his alt, and we will also show that in practice, because it's pretty dumb. And then he's got a 20% gauge increase, which is fine. Valor trait seals attack skills. We'll do a separate video for him in Valor Cup, don't worry. And then his actual trait is attack buff. You don't need dupes for him. But let's go ahead and jump in and see what he can do with his team. Alright, we're going to run him on the Schemer team plus Exalted Champion Remo for the attack buff, if we can fit it in. I don't really think we can, but he's here anyways. So we've got Soe, Soka, Laplace, and Lumi, who are very much playing into the whole attack stacks because of the number of hits we do with Soe, and then the sword stack hits, so we can play into the sword gimmick with Soka. Diablo doesn't really give a fuck about that. Like, yeah, he works because he can steal and he could kind of convert the alt orbs away of your space, therefore giving you 6 orbs, and they'll be greens, and they'll fit into the gimmick, but, like, that's the only thing he's doing. His attack buff, his personal buff, does nothing for the sword gimmick. So, because it's not an attack buff, which is why we brought this ring room. Not that it's really that important. But let's go ahead and orb change and green buff, and then we will bring in Light Lumi for Light Rimuru, and we'll send these orbs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll leave Diablo in the back because he's got that triple orb steal, and we'll try and use that effectively next turn, depending on if we can get 3 orbs. And even if we don't, it's fine. Okay, well, that we can steal, but just because I want to show you what happens if we do it. So let's bring him in for Laplace. So let's use the multi-hit skills, blah, 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 and then let's swap him out for Laplace and just say that Laplace had 3 orbs instead. So, Diablo will steal 3 non-light character orbs. He has 2, Lumi has 3, Soka has 1. Lumi is a light character. So what that means when you use the skill is that he's going to steal Soka's orb, and he's going to leave the Lumi orbs. Why is that? Because this team wants you to use the Lumi ult to get the weakness strike stacks. And so, on one hand, yeah, I see it. I get why they're doing it, because you want to get those stacks with your duped and rocked up Lumi, which no one has, unless you're TM or something. But, like, it does remove some versatility, because if you build a team with a lot of light characters, and there are quite a few of them, you're not going to steal anything at that point. Like, if Diablo is on a team with 4 light characters in him, he will literally steal nothing. He will not steal a single character's ult or orb. And right now, if we steal again, look at this. We only have Lumi orbs and Soka orbs. Lumi is a light character, which means that we will not alt swap her either. because he only does it to space characters. So we would have to remove Lumi from the equation and bring in someone who is not light. And now we can steal. We won't get a full hand because we don't have 3 and 3, but we will steal and then alt swap. It does it in that order. So if we were to get a Sokka alt here somewhere, we would first steal whatever orbs remain, and then we would alt swap, which means that we would potentially have 5 Diablo orbs and then 1 Sokka orb, which is not the end of the world, right? You're still going to get a 6-hand send because you're using Soe to give yourself a full hand of greens. But it's, you know, it is something to keep in mind. He will not give you a full hand of Diablo if another space character is on the field and you use that skill. If Divine General Blanc was here, or Primal Demon Blanc, or any space character, and you got it, it would be 2 alts, 2 of the, you know, 1 for each of those characters, Diablo's alt, and then 3 Diablo orbs. So you do have to play around. Like, you're not going to get a full hand. So let's... actually, this is actually kind of perfect. So we can not alt swap him away, but we brought Rimuru, so we can kind of make that work. And then we'll use this alt swap. That way it's just a rainbow orb. Cool. And then we can just use Soe and call it a day. And now, I want to show you the biggest flaw that I have. The biggest issue I have with this Diablo in his orb steal and alt swap mechanic. And that comes on the nuke turn. Because, ideally, you want Diablo with his personal buffs. He's going to be way stronger than Sokka is in the nuke. Even though Sokka is single target. Like, Sokka doesn't have any personal selfish buffs going on. Diablo has 2 of them. And it's going to enhance his damage a lot. Like, a lot. So, yeah, I want a nuke with Diablo. That sounds fantastic. The problem... that, apart from having the shield here, but it's not really an issue, because if I want to maximize my orbs with Diablo, I want to use his steal. But guess what? On turn 5, if we use his steal, we're going to get a full hand, but we're also going to swap our own ult away, which then eliminates my nuke, which is now a problem, because I maybe in a better turn, I would have used all these special buffs, and I've been like, oh yeah, Diablo has full power, and then his nuke. No, not anymore. He doesn't have his nuke, because he swapped it away. So in trying to get multiple orbs, which we didn't actually steal, because this light Rimuru is light, so we didn't steal his orbs anyways. So, like, do you see the problem that I have with this skill? Yes, I should have swapped Rimuru away for Laplace or something. I should have done X and Y things. He shouldn't have a barrier right now. Yes, this was not a good run, but it was a scientific run in showing you the problem I have with this Diablo. When we come back, I'll bring you back on the nuke turn. He will do really good damage. That's great. He'll probably one-shot this claimant. But you can't use his orb steal on the nuke turn to give yourself maximum orbs of Diablo, who has his personal buff and the Sokka buff and the Lumi buff. Like, you won't be able to use that because you just swapped your own ult away. You've given up your big-time 30 million damage nuke for 3 more Diablo orbs, which are probably going to do about 3 million damage. So, not very efficient. Okay, we are back for a actual nuke turn. Bit interesting, because we're going to have to swap out Sokka, but not the end of the world. So let's go ahead and use her synergy and synergy power. We have already used both the attack buff and the Diablo personal buff, so we're going to do some pretty good damage here. So let's do this. We already have Diablo orbs, and again, if we didn't have full Diablo orbs and I wanted to give him full Diablo orbs, if we used his steal, we would get rid of his ult, so we're not going to do that this turn. We're going to use Lumi's big-time physical attack and a synergy resistance down debuff. Use Soe, give us the full hand of greens, even though we already have technically a full hand. And then we're going to nuke. And Diablo's going to do a literal butt-ton of damage. So that's not, not far-fetched. He's going to do a lot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we've got the Okay, we got a barrier stone apparently, and then we got the EX ult damage from Soe. Diablo himself has 145% from attack from the stacks from Soe. He has another 70% attack from Rimuru. Space plus damage 120, AoE damage 70%, synergy rate, synergy power, physical attack, and then Clayman has the weakness resistance, attack debuff, defense down, and synergy resistance. So let's see what we do here, with also a 25% weakness strike buff from this Lumi ult that's going to be added on top. And we're going to do somewhere in the range of like 30-something million damage, like probably like 34, 35 million, around there. Maybe a bit less. Maybe about 30, well, maybe 31. So Lumi does 679k. All right, cool. It's more just for the weakness strike. He's doing a 1.1 million a hit just on the normal orb. 2.3 million, 429,000 on like the multi-hit things. And now his ult, which is very shiny. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stealing gems all over the place, and he's turned that into swords. And I mean, it's a good looking ult. I have no problems with it. Quite flashy. And his final damage is 33 million. So we didn't even need the sword gimmick, because he just did too much damage. And this is Inferno 1, by the way. So, yeah, we didn't need the sword gimmick. Like, the attack stacks from Soe definitely helps, right? Any stack from a protector is going to work. But the gimmick is non-existent. Like, yes, we needed the multi-hits and the follow-up orbs to break the barrier, but we're not seeing the sword stats. Those aren't coming in for the kill. Diablo just did it straight up. So yeah, he does a lot of damage when you build a team around him and you give him synergy and attack buff and attack stacks and EX ult damage and the synergy resistance and the physical buff. Like, yeah, no shit. He does a lot of damage. But that flaw still remains, where if that turn had played out differently and I didn't already have a full hand of Diablo and I tried to use his orb change, there would be no 33 million nuke. There would just be 6 orbs or less. So that's the problem I have. His counterpart is Lumi, is Tournament Stalwart Lumi, and she doesn't have that problem because she doesn't do something stupid like swap alts away. That's her own alt on her orb change. It's just a steal. And then the gauge increase. And someone would say, well, yeah, but the Diablo's doing 3 things. It's like, yeah, he sure is. But on the nuke turn, I could use this and all the other buffs and still steal and not have a problem. So, let's put Diablo on a different team now. Alright, we'll go into the Primal Demon Chamber of Memories, since that's the only other place that really could hold up to his power, and it's not Tempered Edge or something. And we'll build a Primal Demon team, so Primal Demon Violet, stacking Protector, stacks attack, okay, cool. We've got Blanc for her damage buff, Misery, Diablo, and Guy for their orb changes. This Diablo gives physical and pierce rate. This guy will give us ult damage. We don't want to crit this stage, so we'll have to use his buff and then have Diablo in the back or something, because we don't want to give him crit. But then Diablo, with his AoE buff and his type advantage and his space plus buff, will do a lot versus this AoE stage. So, I mean, he can be effective when you build a team around him, and he is the damage dealer. So everyone here is meant to support this Diablo, and it will work. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that, I mean, if you already have the other Primal Demon Diablo, what's to stop you from just using that guy? And he's so much older. You probably might have him from free ticket multis or something. I don't know, the Tempest tickets or Medal of Honor tickets, or the 3.5 anniversary tickets. Like, you might have him already. And then it's like, I mean, yeah, you could have a new Diablo. That's fine and dandy, but do you really need him? The stage only has 3.5 million HP. It's very old. So, I think we will do this, and we'll just run with this, and then maybe we'll try an orb steal next turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Since we're all Primal Demons, we're all getting that extra damage buff, but because the Diablos are space, they'll get extra because they're type advantage. And then, okay, yeah, that works out. Kind of, right? Kind of, not really. We could orb steal into 6, and I guess that would work, but we wouldn't really be getting a lot out of this. So let's go ahead and convert that. Okay, cool. Let's bring in Blanc to use her free 40 points, because we're going to need that right now. and that gives us 48. So then we can do the steal, and that would give us... I mean, we could do the steal, or we could just straight up do the Diablo convert, which is probably actually better. Let's do that instead, and then we'll steal maybe next turn. So Violet will give us stacks of attack. That's fine. The multi-skill is a stupid gimmick, and it's not really useful because none of our characters have any multi-use skills that we need to do. Like, it was meant for Primal Demon Blanc and her zero cost, but we're not running zero cost skills here, so it's kind of just not useful. I mean, I guess that can work. Normally, if I were to do this, I would bring the Warrior's Mind Violet, and we just have Rainbow Orbs, and then all of our problems will be solved. So turn 3, okay, double stack of Violet, so that's 12, 14... No, sorry, 12, 24, 36% attack that we've got now on our Diablos. That's pretty good. Alright, let's turn that off. And we can convert this hand? Yeah. Boom. Another stack. And we'll just go 8 turns, because this is a stacking stage, technically. Let's go ahead and... let's convert that. And then I guess we can use the Guy convert instead. We don't actually have to use it, because we're getting these kind of awkward hands here. And then we'll use his convert. Boom. Next turn we should have more points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then maybe then we can steal into 5 or 6 of the new Diablo orbs and rush his ult as much as possible. If we were to get ults for both Diablos, we could swap them away into greens and then use Primal Demon Diablo to just swap that as well. Alright, that's not a... Well, wish I had Misery here. Alright, let's just steal this. Boom. It gives us 5 orbs. It's better than nothing. It's definitely not ideal. I forgot about the bind. So we'll just have to kind of burn this turn out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Okay. So, 5 orbs. That does get us his ult, which means that we can successfully ult swap next turn. We are getting no blue orbs. We are getting actually shafted on orb RNG here for a blue stacking team. This is like the worst scenario ever. 1 blue every single turn. Alright, that helps. And that actually does help a lot, because when we steal, we're going to turn Diablo's ult into a green anyways, and that gives us full hand of green, 5 Diablo orbs, then use the other Diablo to full convert that, and then we'll do another stack with Violet. And this should get us fairly close to his EX ult, and then he can just simply go away. Yeah, it gets us his EX ult. Perfect. So then on turn 8, we can use the ult buff from Guy, not give Diablo the crit, because we don't want to crit, and then we can do full power damage. So, alright, turn is over. That's a good hand. If I were to use the Diablo ult swap here and the orb change, I would steal a full hand, and I would turn this one green. So it's like, I could do a couple things here. Do I want to do that? Or do I want to just simply bring in this blue orb and use the Guy convert? We're going to do that, because that's the smarter play. It saves us from using more skills than necessary. So, let's go ahead and bring Misery in, I guess. And I guess we can use his personal buff now, because it's cheap and why not. And we can hold on to it. And then we'll send him away. Bring Misery in. And that gives us a Guy convert right here. Boom, perfect. And then we'll send this against Elmusia, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As long as the new Diablo is not up front on turn 8, we're looking good. And we can bring him in for like one last stack here and then send him back away on turn 7. That's a fairly good hand right there. So, Body and Spirit Seal, not a big deal. I mean, technically, since we're crit sealed and we're not crit nerfed over here, we could leave him up front, technically. So let's do that swap. Alright. And then we can take... yeah, we can take Misery out of here for Blanc. Use Orb Change, boom, boom. Boom, boom. Looking good. I forgot to bring Diablo in. Oh well. I totally said what we were going to do, and then I proceeded to not do it, as is typical of lots of my showcases. Professional, by the way. Been doing this for 3.5 years, and it really shows. Alright, turn 8 though. We are here, ready to go. That's actually a pretty good hand. And the problem is we only have one orb. So, let's do this buff. Boom. We'll use Blanc as well, since we don't care about the dark resistance down, and the damage buff applies to everybody, no matter where they are. We'll take Blanc out for the new Diablo, and then we'll take Guy out for Misery. That brings in one Diablo orb. We can use the physical buff, the full green convert, and again, like right here, if I wanted to have a full hand of the new Diablo orbs, I could steal, but it would also wipe away these two Diablo ults, and it would turn them into greens, of which we've already used the green orb buff, or orb change, and if we didn't have a multi-skill protector, then we'd have 4 blues and 2 greens. So, not very useful there. But if you're smart about it, or you're running a team that can get around it, then there's not really that big of an issue. But now this Diablo has the Barrier Stone, and then 80% ult damage from Guy. We've got 128 attack from the stacks from Violet. We've got space plus damage, the AoE damage, the physical damage, that doesn't matter. The pierce rate, and then the physical buff. And then they have the dark resistance down, which doesn't apply because we're not dark. So let's see how much damage our 6 orb, 200% orb does. And then we'll send the Diablo ult, and then the old Diablo can follow up. So he does 650,000. That's pretty good. And then his ult does 7 million damage. They only had about 3.5 to 4. So that is good damage for a fairly old team, plus one new character. And it's pretty much carried by his 25-point buff. Like, we would have done much, much less damage. Much, much less. If we did not use his personal buff. So, yes, he is a fairly sufficient, strong nuking character. But he does have those weird quirks that make him not viable everywhere, or not viable when you need him to be. So, with that in mind, like, yes, he can do really, really good damage, especially on his own team. He doesn't play into the gimmick of the Schemer meta, though. Like, he might as well just not exist, because he's going to kill him. Unless you're specifically in Jubilee. Specifically. And if you already have an AoE nuking character, like, you don't really need a new one. Right? If you're doing a lot of damage with your AoE Blanc, or Frieren, or free Fount of Wisdom Rimuru, and that's all you need, then you don't need to summon on a single featured unit banner for this Diablo. Who's only going to give you a use for 1 or 2 months, maybe. Like, not really what we're looking for. But in a vacuum, on paper, he is a very strong AoE nuking character because of his cheap buff, regardless of how stupid his orb steal is. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What this Diablo is to you. Is he stupid? Is he insanely busted? Is he unnecessary? Is he necessary for what you're trying to do personally in your own box with your own units? I don't know what you're running. Maybe you do need a strong AoE nuking character, and you're like, well, this Diablo looks great. He fits all the bill. Okay, that's fine. You can summon. But for most players, like 99% of players, I would probably tell you just to skip him. So let me know your thoughts, but that's it from me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.